Plato's elitist lie, how the ancient intellectual snobbery brainwashed generations. Are you sick of the same old truth, fed to you by a handful of so-called intellectual elites? What if I told you that one man's ancient philosophy has been holding us hostage for centuries, convincing us that there's a hidden, unreachable truth reserved only for a select few? Imagine a world where the wise truly ruled from an ivory tower, keeping the everyday person at arm's length. Today, we're diving deep into Plato's world, a world built on ideas that have quietly justified elitism and dismissed the voice of the common person for over 2,000 years. Before we get too far into the weeds, let's set the stage. Plato wasn't just a philosopher scribbling down abstract ideas. His theory of forms and his belief in a higher realm of truth gave birth to a dangerous mindset that praises intellectual snobbery over real, practical wisdom. Think about it. Even today, we often hear people dismissing others as uninformed or uncultured while parading their so-called expertise. In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of Plato's thought, exposing how his theories have been used over centuries to marginalize the common voice. We'll explore how his ideal forms became a tool for keeping knowledge and power in the hands of a few. And as we connect those dots, you might start to see how his ideas echo through today's society, where experts often act more like gatekeepers than guides. Let's take a trip back to ancient Athens. Picture a bustling city, full of thinkers, artists, and yes, politicians. In this vibrant scene, Plato emerges as one of the most influential minds. But his genius came with a catch. He proposed that everything we see in our everyday world is just a shadow, a poor copy of a perfect, unchanging idea that exists somewhere beyond our grasp. Plato believed that beyond our sensory experience lies a realm of forms, perfect, immutable ideas that are the true reality. For example, when you see a beautiful painting, you're only seeing an imperfect copy of the ideal beauty that exists in this other realm. According to Plato, only a select few, philosophers, are capable of understanding these forms. In his mind, the common person, lost in the world of appearances, isn't capable of grasping true knowledge. Imagine if you were told that your everyday experiences and emotions were mere imitations of something greater, something reserved for a privileged class of thinkers. It's like being told that your home-cooked meal is just a pale imitation of some unattainable, perfect feast prepared by a master chef who lives in a castle. Doesn't that feel a little dismissive? Now fast forward to today. Despite being born in ancient times, Plato's ideas still lurk in our modern institutions. Ever noticed how sometimes the experts seem to act like they're in a secret club, speaking a language you're not meant to understand? That's no coincidence. Plato's theory has provided a philosophical blueprint for creating an ivory tower mentality. Plato argued that true knowledge isn't accessible to everyone. This has given birth to an academic culture where education and expertise are seen as the keys to power. If you aren't in the know, you're not worthy of making decisions or even having your opinion considered. Today, we see similar patterns in politics, education, and even social media. The idea that a select group of experts should control the narrative feeds into a dangerous cycle. It marginalizes everyday experiences and voices. This elitism isn't just about who knows more. It's about who gets to decide what is true. Consider the ongoing debate about fake news or the dismissal of opinions by those in power. When experts say one thing and the public another, whose truth is valid? Plato's legacy makes it easy to justify dismissing alternative viewpoints as simply uninformed or emotional. The problem is deeper than a debate about ideas. It's about power. By convincing generations that only a select few can access the truth, Plato's philosophy has been used to silence dissent and keep people from questioning authority. And when you strip away the academic jargon, it's a pretty manipulative trick. Let's go further into the murky waters. It's one thing to argue about abstract ideas, but it's another to claim that those ideas are part of a deliberate scheme to control society. Plato's work wasn't just an innocent philosophical exercise. It was the beginning of a narrative that would justify elitism and the exclusion of the majority. Plato's theory is like a beautifully wrapped package that hides a sneaky agenda. On the surface, it's about seeking truth and beauty. But underneath, it suggests that only a privileged few are capable of understanding the true nature of reality. This idea sets up a clear division: the enlightened versus the ignorant. Throughout history, those in power have used Plato's ideas to maintain their control. Kings, priests, and political leaders have all leaned on the notion that the masses are too unruly or uninformed to make sound decisions. The message is simple: if you're not part of the elite, you shouldn't be trusted with power. Think about our education system. From primary schools to universities, there's an underlying assumption that the experts have the answers and the rest of us should just absorb and follow. When you look at the structure of many academic institutions, you'll see echoes of Plato's vision: a clear hierarchy where only those who are deemed philosophically sound can lead. This isn't just academic nitpicking. It's about real-world implications. When an entire society is convinced that only a few hold the keys to truth, it creates a dangerous divide. The majority are left with little say in shaping their own lives, and the few who are enlightened can make decisions without any accountability. Let's bring this home with a story, a tale of everyday people who have been pushed aside by this so-called intellectual elite. Meet Maria, a hardworking single mom working 2 jobs, barely scraping by to provide for her kids. Maria doesn't have the time or resources to study ancient philosophy, and honestly, she has no interest in it. For her, life is about making ends meet, raising her children, and surviving in a world that often feels stacked against her. Now, imagine if Maria's perspective was dismissed simply because she wasn't a philosopher or an academic. That's exactly what Plato's legacy does. It tells us that only the views of the educated few are valid. When people like Maria are forced to sit on the sidelines of debates about truth and reality, it creates a society where power remains concentrated in the hands of those who already have it. Maria might not be quoting Plato or Aristotle at her lunch break, but she has wisdom born from life's struggles. Her experiences are valid and crucial to understanding the real world. Yet, because she doesn't fit the mold of the enlightened thinker, her voice is often silenced. This isn't just about academic debate, it's about real people and real lives. When society values abstract, high-minded theories over common sense and practical experience, it creates policies and decisions that often don't work for the majority. It's a cycle that keeps ordinary people from having a say in the issues that affect them most. Maria's story is just one of many. Across the globe, countless voices are drowned out by the echo chamber of intellectual elitism, a phenomenon that traces its roots back to Plato's belief that only a select few could grasp true reality. Let's take a look around us. Today's world is full of experts who seem more interested in speaking over you than engaging with you. Whether it's on social media, in the news, or even in our own communities, there's a prevailing attitude that if you're not an expert, you're just adding noise. Social media has given rise to a new class of experts. But here's the kicker. Sometimes, these so-called experts are just repeating ideas that have been handed down from centuries past. The ancient belief that only a few are capable of true understanding has morphed into a modern phenomenon where influencers, academics and pundits claim exclusive rights to the truth. When dissenting voices emerge, when everyday people challenge the status quo, they're often labeled as misinformed or emotional. This is exactly the playbook that Plato's legacy has handed down. By defining what counts as legitimate knowledge, those in power can easily dismiss any opinion that doesn't fit neatly into their narrative. This elitist mindset creates a dependency on those in power. The more we believe that only a few can understand the big picture, the less likely we are to trust our own experiences and instincts. And that's when the cycle becomes dangerous, because it means we allow a small, disconnected group to dictate policies and decisions that affect everyone. Take, for example, the debate over climate change. While experts present data and models, many ordinary people feel that their personal experiences, the changes they see in their own backyards, are dismissed. It's as if there's a chasm between the intellectual understanding of the world and the tangible reality that everyday people live in. And that chasm, it's been widened by the very elitist ideas Plato set in motion. When society divides knowledge into elite and common, it's not just a harmless philosophical exercise, it has real consequences. Let's break down some of the problems that arise from this divide. Policy disconnect. When policymakers are insulated in their academic bubbles, they often craft policies that ignore the lived realities of the general public. That can mean everything from economic policies that favor the wealthy to educational systems that alienate students who don't fit the academic mold. Social fragmentation. This division creates an us versus them mentality. On one side, you have the experts who claim to know the truth, and on the other, the rest of society who are deemed incapable of understanding the complexities of the world. This can lead to social unrest, mistrust, and even the rise of populist movements that swing wildly between extremes. Erosion of critical thinking. If you're always told that only a select few have the answers, why would you trust your own judgment? Over time, this can erode critical thinking skills among the general population. Instead of questioning and engaging with ideas, people become passive recipients of information, waiting for someone better to tell them what's right. A legacy of exclusion. History is littered with examples of exclusion, groups of people being shut out from power and decision-making simply because they weren't deemed worthy by the intellectual elite. This legacy of exclusion continues to affect us today, reinforcing social and economic inequalities. Now that we've laid out the problem, it's time for a moment of reckoning. What if we started questioning this entire premise? What if we began to value everyday wisdom just as much as academic expertise? Empowering the individual. It's time to challenge the notion that only a select few have the right to define truth. Every person, no matter their background or education, has experiences and insights that are valuable. The idea that you have to be in an ivory tower to see clearly is not just outdated, it's dangerous. A shift in perspective. Imagine a society where knowledge isn't hoarded by an elite class, but is shared openly and democratically. A society where questions are encouraged and every voice is heard, regardless of whether it comes from a professor or a parent juggling multiple jobs. This isn't a utopian fantasy. It's a necessary evolution if we're ever going to build a fairer, more inclusive world. Taking back the narrative. It starts with questioning what we've been told for so long. We need to ask ourselves, who benefits from keeping knowledge confined to an elite few? When you peel back the layers, it becomes clear that this system is designed to maintain power structures, not to serve the truth. And that's a lie that needs to be exposed. Think about the moment when you first realized that the experts might not have all the answers. Maybe it was a personal experience, a moment of frustration when you felt dismissed or misunderstood. That spark of doubt is powerful. It's the beginning of reclaiming your own voice. We owe it to ourselves and to future generations to keep that spark alive. We're now at the heart of the matter. The battle isn't just about ancient philosophy. It's about the fight for a society where every voice counts. It's about reclaiming our right to question authority and to demand transparency from those who claim to hold the keys to truth. A call for intellectual democracy. The time has come to tear down the walls of the ivory tower. We need to create a culture where knowledge is shared and debated openly, where expertise is valued but not idolized, and where everyone is encouraged to think critically. Reclaiming everyday wisdom. Every day, people like Maria, who live on the front lines of life, are making decisions that shape our communities. Their wisdom, born of experience and struggle, is just as important as the abstract theories of ancient philosophers. By elevating these voices, we can create a richer, more diverse conversation about what truth really means. When we come together and share our experiences, we challenge the narrative that only a select few can understand the world. It's time to dismantle the myth that expertise is the sole gatekeeper of truth. History shows us that when the people speak as one, they can force change, even against the most entrenched power structures. A revolution of thought. This isn't a call for chaos, it's a call for a revolution of thought. A revolution where critical thinking, empathy, and open dialogue replace the old guard of elitist snobbery. By questioning long-held beliefs, we not only honor our own intelligence, but also pave the way for a future where every voice is valued. In many ways, this moment is a turning point, a time to reflect on our past, question the present, and shape a future that's built on inclusivity rather than exclusion. The battle for truth isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a fight for the soul of our society. So, where do we go from here? The first step is acknowledging that Plato's elitist ideas aren't just relics of the past. They're living influences that continue to shape our world. We have the power to challenge these ideas and redefine what it means to be knowledgeable and wise. Question authority. Every time you hear an expert dismiss a differing viewpoint, ask yourself, who benefits from keeping this narrative in place? Is it really about truth, or is it about maintaining power? Share your story. Don't be afraid to speak up. Your personal experiences and insights are valid. They're a part of the rich tapestry of human knowledge that's been overlooked for too long. Build a community of inquiry. Surround yourself with people who value open dialogue and critical thinking. Together, we can create spaces where questions are welcomed and diverse perspectives are celebrated. Educate and empower. Whether it's through community groups, social media, or local events, use every opportunity to share ideas that challenge the status quo. Empower others to trust their own experiences and to question the authority that claims exclusive access to truth. Remember, this isn't about tearing down everything for the sake of rebellion. It's about building something better. A society where knowledge is a shared resource, not a tool for control. A society where every voice, no matter how ordinary, has the power to inspire change. Plato's legacy is a double-edged sword. On one side, his ideas have inspired countless thinkers and laid the groundwork for modern philosophy. On the other, his elitist framework has been twisted into a tool for exclusion and control, a tool that still influences our culture today. When we examine history, we see that the divide between the so-called intellectual elite and the common people has only grown wider. The ivory towers of academia have become symbols of power that keep the majority at bay. But here's the truth. Knowledge isn't confined to dusty books or high-minded debates. It's in every lived experience, every personal struggle, and every moment of clarity that comes from questioning the world around us. By understanding the origins of this elitist mindset, we can begin to dismantle it piece by piece. We can start by recognizing that every person has the potential to contribute to the grand tapestry of human understanding. We can choose to value practical wisdom over abstract theories, and to honor the experiences of everyday people as much as we honor the writings of ancient philosophers. This isn't an easy journey, and it won't happen overnight. But every time we challenge the notion that only a select few can know the truth, we chip away at the foundations of elitist control. And in doing so, we take a step toward a future where power isn't hoarded by the few, but shared by all. Imagine a future where every community, no matter how small or seemingly ordinary, is a center of learning and debate. Imagine a world where the ideas of Plato and other ancient philosophers are re-examined through the lens of modern experiences, where the so-called elite are held accountable, and where every person's voice is given the respect it deserves. Community learning. In this vision, local libraries, community centers, and online forums become hubs of shared knowledge. People from all walks of life come together to exchange ideas, challenge each other's assumptions, and build a collective understanding that isn't dictated by outdated hierarchies. Democratizing expertise. Expertise doesn't have to be a closed club. When we democratize knowledge, by making education accessible and inclusive, we create a society where innovation and creativity can flourish. Instead of looking up to an untouchable elite, we learn to trust in the collective wisdom that comes from diverse perspectives. Empowering critical thinkers. The future we dream of is one where critical thinking is nurtured from a young age, where questioning is seen as a strength, not a threat. When we empower individuals to think for themselves, we dismantle the dangerous idea that only a few are capable of understanding the world's complexities. The path to this future is clear. We must reject the outdated notion that intellectual elitism is the only path to truth. We must celebrate every person's right to ask questions, to explore ideas, and to contribute to the ongoing dialogue about what it means to be human. And in doing so, we honor the true spirit of inquiry, a spirit that Plato himself may have admired, had he ever realized that his ideas were being used to silence the majority. So here we are. We started by questioning whether the truth we're fed by so-called experts is really the whole picture. We dug into Plato's ancient ideas and uncovered how his theory of forms laid the groundwork for an elitist system that's still affecting us today. We looked at the stories of everyday people like Maria, whose voices have been sidelined by a philosophy that values abstract ideas over lived experience. And we ended with a call to action, a call for intellectual democracy, for a future where every voice counts. This journey isn't about hating on philosophy or dismissing the contributions of great thinkers. It's about recognizing that ideas, no matter how influential, can be twisted into tools for control. It's about reclaiming the power of everyday wisdom and ensuring that knowledge remains a shared resource, accessible to everyone. As we wrap up this deep dive, think about what you've heard today. Reflect on the times when you felt dismissed because you weren't part of the informed crowd. Let that feeling drive you to seek out your own answers and to question the narratives that have been handed down to you. Because if we all start asking the right questions, we can break free from the chains of elitism and build a world where every voice is valued. There's a saying that goes, when enough people get fed up, something changes. Today, we're standing at the crossroads of change. The elitist narrative that has governed our understanding of truth for centuries is crumbling under the weight of our collective voices. Stand up and speak out. Don't let anyone tell you that your opinion doesn't matter. Whether you're a seasoned academic or someone who's just trying to make sense of life, your insights are crucial. Every conversation, every debate, and every question chips away at the walls of the ivory tower. Challenge the status quo. The next time you hear someone dismiss a viewpoint because it's too simple or uninformed, challenge them. Ask who decides what counts as knowledge, and why should one person's opinion be considered less valid than another's? Keep the conversation going. Change starts with conversation. Share your thoughts with friends, family, and even strangers. Use every platform available, social media, community meetings, or casual chats, to spread the message that knowledge is a collective endeavor, not a privilege reserved for a few. Our world is at a tipping point. The old models of authority are being questioned, and in that questioning lies the hope for a more inclusive, democratic future. It's up to us to seize that moment and create a new narrative, one that celebrates the diversity of thought and the richness of human experience. As we close out this discussion, remember that history isn't written by a single group of people. It's a tapestry woven from the experiences and insights of countless individuals. Plato's ideas have influenced our society, but they don't have to define it. We have the power to reshape our collective understanding of truth and to reject the elitist mindset that has held us back for too long. If you've ever felt that the experts were speaking over you, today is the day to reclaim your voice. Every question you ask, every challenge you pose, and every conversation you spark is a step toward breaking free from a system that's been built on exclusion. We're not just consumers of knowledge, we're active participants in its creation. So let's honor the spirit of inquiry. Let's question the narratives that have been imposed on us. And let's work together to build a society where knowledge is shared, celebrated, and accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or education. Before we wrap up, here's a final thought. The power to change the world isn't locked away in ancient texts or hidden behind a velvet rope in an ivory tower. It's in your hands, in your voice, and in your willingness to ask the tough questions. Challenge the elitism that's been passed down through the ages, and empower yourself and those around you to think freely and critically. Every time you question an authority, every time you share your own experience, you're helping to tear down the walls that have divided us for so long. And remember, a revolution of thought begins with one small act of defiance against the status quo. If you're ready to join the fight against intellectual elitism and reclaim the truth for everyone, then stick around. There's a whole community of critical thinkers out there, and we're just getting started. The journey may be long, but every step brings us closer to a world where every voice is heard and every perspective is valued. Now, if you're as fired up as I am and want to dive deeper into these ideas, check out the next video on our channel. Together, we can challenge the old narratives and build a future that's truly for everyone. Remember, the truth isn't reserved for the elite. It belongs to all of us.